DOMA was struck down along with Prop 8, pretty much clearing the way for marriage equality across the states. Now, in California, same-sex marriage has already resumed. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals lifted the stay banning same-sex marriages late Friday afternoon. This is great news for America and equality, but apparently not everyone agrees. Justice Scalia wrote a scathing 26-page long dissent where he accuses his fellow justices of having an inflated sense of self-importance, saying that, quote, "We have no power to decide this case, and even if we did, we have no power under the Constitution to invalidate this democratically adopted legislation." That is kind of ironic, because the day before, on the Voting Rights Act decision, they basically invalidated democratically adopted legislation. Remember, the Voting Rights Act kept getting passed in Congress. The last time it got reauthorized in 2006 with a 98-0 vote in the Senate. Now, Scalia isn't the only angry person. Pat Robertson warned that the United States is going to end up like Sodom and Gomorrah. Rick Santorum and Rand Paul think that this is going to lead to animal marriage. These people are insane. Okay, animal marriage. Louie Gohmert on Thursday said that, quote, "Same-sex marriage is usually tried at the end of a great civilization. Well, once you move marriage beyond the scope of a man and woman, you really don't end up with a good place to put a limit. I think polygamy is wrong, bigamy is wrong, and it's a crime in many places, but how will that be justifiable now that the court has removed this?" Michelle Bachmann, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Michelle Bachmann, her quote is, she says, quote, "Marriage was created by the hand of God. No man, not even a Supreme Court, can undo what a holy God has instituted. For thousands of years of recorded human history, no society has defended the legal standard of marriage as anything other than a man and a woman." I would ask her to consult her Bible. Only since 2000 have we seen a redefinition of this foundational unit of society in various nations. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court decided to join the trend despite the clear will of the people's representatives through DOMA. What the court has done will undermine the best interest of children and the best interest of the United States. To which Nancy Pelosi replied, "Who cares?" I agree. Who cares? How is this harming the children, you guys?
Well, I mean, before I get into DOMA, I just want to address Rand Paul's bestiality comment. He did walk that back like an hour later, so he said he messed up. So I'm gonna give him a little credit because he's not as bad as other people on gay rights. But these two decisions, to me, were unbelievably restrained by the courts. Like, if you look at what the courts did, they didn't invent the new right to marriage, and they didn't invalidate state marriages. What they basically said was, if the federal government gives benefits based on a state license, which is the marriage license, then states who allow gay marriage, also those people are also allowed to have those federal benefits. So they left it to the states. It was a very a restrained decision. It wasn't judicial activism at all. And I think it was a very good decision based on the circumstances that were presented to the court. I don't think that you could have really pulled a national right to same-sex marriage out of the two cases that they had. And I guessed it right like a month ago, or a couple months ago, if you guys remember.
Yeah, you know, the whole Prop 8 decision, you know, I like that California was just able to get rid of Prop 8.
Right. And that was a standing issue, but they didn't. My point is, they didn't do like any Republican who's like saying this is judicial activism. They're totally wrong. This was super unbelievably restrained. They just interpreted the federal law for what it was.
Yeah, this seems like well, the DOMA decision was not just on was not actually about states' rights, and I'm actually glad that they ruled on the Fifth Amendment, based on the Fifth Amendment, for equal protection. And that's kind of the difference between the Voting Rights Act and DOMA. Is DOMA was more of a DOMA was an equal protection issue.
But to me,
and it's obvious that that the whole opposition to gay marriage is a religious issue also, which should set up red flags for people, because our legislative offices should not be banning gay marriage. Like right now, North Carolina just last year banned gay marriage. I mean, it seems like places like North Carolina are running backwards at full speed, trying to get back into the 19th century. Because, I mean, I think about 10 years ago, and I wouldn't have thought that we would be so vehemently having this conversation. I would have thought that gay marriage would be illegal by now, because it's hard to even argue about it because it's so ridiculous. It doesn't affect anyone else except the two people involved, and the only way that it affects them is it gives them the same rights that everyone else already has the right to. And I'm wondering if Louie Gohmert is having some sort of personal contest with other Republicans to see who can say the stupidest shit in front of other people.
Here's what's kind of funny about that. The argument that they all seem to go for
is bestiality.
Excluding, I guess, Rand Paul, who you said rolled it back, walk it back, back pedal, right? They always go to the bestiality angle.
Because consenting adults is the exact same thing as a man.
As an animal that cannot consent, and that's really the difference. So, I mean, it's a stupid argument.
And the polygamy argument is really a non-argument to me anyway, because if they want to legalize polygamy, I don't really care. As long as all the parties involved are adults and they're consenting, why should we care?
It gets a little weird when it comes to the tax issue, and I've actually seen a lot of people.
Weird, but taxes are already weird.
I mean, in the federal tax benefits portion of it.
I actually think
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I actually think the polygamy argument is actually a good argument, because they're like, you could change it to this. But I'm also perfectly fine with polygamy. Do whatever you want. Call it whatever you want. But I actually think that is a way better argument than their bestiality arguments.
Yeah,
it makes more sense. It doesn't bother me.
It has to do a lot with, I think, the tax issue. Now, at least it would be for me. It'd be a little weird doing the considering the whole legalization of polygamy thing, because it's like, well, wait a minute, plural marriages, socially, I really don't give a shit. But when it comes to tax issues, like, okay, so we're going to give you more tax breaks the more wives you have, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, that wouldn't work that way. That wouldn't be fair. People would be
exactly. That's kind of the point. So when it comes to polygamy, I'm pretty sure, Sean, you would agree with this, because I've seen this argument a lot when it comes to the gay marriage thing. Is why is the government, the federal government, inside of marriage? Why are we giving preferential treatments to couples to get married?
And that's why I like
that's a very good question, and I've questioned that system for a long time. But it doesn't seem to make much sense to me.
That's why I like the DOMA argument, because all it says is if your state considers you married, then you get federal benefits. Like, I know they use Fifth Amendment issues, but they didn't extend it to other states. They just said if you have same-sex marriage, then in your state, then it's not going to be like, I forgot, a skim milk marriage was, I think, Ginsburg's point.
Yeah,
like
she
a real marriage.
She had said the skim milk marriage. That would
and it needs to be pointed out that the long-standing tradition of marriage, not that long. It's actually the civil marriage, which is the government, not the church, recognizing a marriage, was started by Otto von Bismarck of Germany because he didn't want to get clearance from the Pope.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that you can't trade another man 2 cows and a goat for his oldest daughter means that we've already changed the definition and understanding of marriage.
But I'm just saying the modern day interpretation of marriage after slavery. Just think about that.
And it's completely different from traditional biblical marriage that they continue to argue, because look at King Solomon, 400 wives.
Awesome. And concubines.
And the Bible also mentions concubines a lot.
And think about the pedophilia. I mean, they didn't put it that way in the book, but many wives back then were 12, 13, 14 years old.